Hello, everyone. Happy Wednesday, and welcome to our live stream. Divorce is not a bad word, where Nikita and I will discuss all things related to divorce and finance. Before I introduce myself, happy first day of Women's History Month. My name is Terry Ho. I am a certified divorce financial analyst, short for CDFA for short. So, what I do is I help individuals and their families navigate through their finances pre and post divorce. And I work alongside divorce attorneys to make sure that their client is receiving an equitable settlement. What I believe is lawyers have the law down pat, but some may not understand certain financial vehicles. And those financial vehicles can be one of the largest assets you may have to divide. That's where I come in to assist. Not only do I assist with retirement vehicles, but I show my clients the pros and cons of taking one asset over another. I mean, at the end of the day, we're splitting money here, and this is the money you'll be living on moving forward post divorce. So it is vital to have a CDFA such as myself on your divorce team. So, my backstory is there isn't a lot of women in the financial industry. So, I always get the question, why financial planner? Well, my story is because my mother is who inspired me to become a CDFA. She went through a traumatic relationship and felt like there was no way out because my father took care of all the household expenses. And she had little to no knowledge of finances. So, from that experience and from watching her, I just told myself that, hey, I will always have my own money and have an intimate relationship with money to avoid being put in any kind of compromising situations where my partner or your partner has control of your life. And my general belief and philosophy around that is that everyone should be financially independent, regardless of who your significant other is. You should be responsible for all your own finances and have basic knowledge of finance. I mean, think about it this way: the world revolves around money, and we cannot survive without it. So, why would you not take the time to learn and have a relationship with money? I think just from my experience, I discover that, my passion really is education, specifically financial literacy. I've always wanted to educate other individuals around finances because it's one topic that isn't taught enough in school, but is so needed when our world is centered around money. That's where one of my good friend introduced me to Nikita Lamar, and I found out she wanted to educate individuals regarding topics around divorce. So we decided to join forces and just create a space where we can provide resources to individuals that are thinking about just individuals about divorce and finance. But enough about me. I will let Nikita kind of share her story and what inspired her to become a family attorney and help individuals navigate through the system with their divorce.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. My name is Nikita Lamar. I'm a divorce attorney. I have been working in this arena for almost 9 years now. And when you talk about what brought you to this arena and your mother being divorced, similar story here. My mother was divorced early. Her and my father were not married very long. But they did end the union in divorce. I was a ward of the court, meaning that my grandparents took care of me. That also ties into family law, which is what I practice. So I'm not really surprised that I ended up here, assisting people in the same way that I was assisted in the court system as well when I was younger, and understanding from a child's perspective at that time what that looks like, what it feels like. It gives me a different perspective. I think more of a personal relationship with some of these clients and what they're going through. I can understand, what they're going through from a personal space. So I also enjoy the idea of ushering someone into another segment of their life, because a lot of times people think that divorce is the end. It is the end of something, but it's not the end of your life. A lot of times it's the beginning of the second or third act. And so I do enjoy doing that as well, which is what keeps me working in family law, period.
Awesome. So when you say this is your why and everything, is there a certain type of clients that you work with in divorces?
My firm has the ability to work with all individuals, anyone who is di- wants to get divorced, anybody who's married, anybody who's contemplating marriage, including the LGBTQIA plus population, those that have relationships that are a little bit less conventional. Some of them may go into the poly lifestyle, things like that, but there is one person, two people who are married. We deal with those things. So, really, anyone who needs to get divorced or needs information about getting divorced or prenuptial agreements or whatever the case may be, we can assist those clients.
It's so interesting that you say the poly side. I'm interested in that because I've never come across that. So that's
Yeah.
really interesting. You're able to cater to all all demographics. Anybody that's just wanting information. I am interested to find out more, and it's, if you want to share or not, it's up to you on the poly side. If like how that goes.
Well, I mean, we won't go too much into it because we have a lot of information to cover, but there are instances, like I said, these days that, that require you to have more of an open mind when it
Yeah.
comes to how we're going to sort these things out, because you are only accustomed to dealing with uh, conventional relationships. That doesn't mean that that's what's going on out here. We have a lot going on. And I think that the more that you understand about these different types of relationships and things like that, then the better off you are as a firm, as an attorney, because you have the ability to help more people. And that's really what it's about, the ability to help other people. And so we approach these things with an open mind, understanding that everybody's situation is not the same. So I'm a lady who loves choices. And so because of that, I always like to be able to provide that to my clients, or I prefer people with open minds. So I provide that environment to my clients.
No, I absolutely just love that, Nikita, that you share that because you're absolutely right. When it comes to just providing information, there's not just one cookie cutter set. There's different types of relationships out there, and it's good to know that your firm is able to support that. Um,
Sure.
so that's the reason why. I mean, that's another reason why Nikita and I connected. We connected just because we just want to help. We just want to provide resources to everybody that is either contemplating or currently going through a divorce. And when we initially started planning for this live stream, anybody that knows me knows I'm like a perfectionist. It's really a blessing and a curse. And I didn't want to launch this until it was perfect. But Nikita reminded me, like, this live is for the people. So as we go through this and we go through each episode, we're going to perfect it along the way. And that's what brings us back to what this first episode is all about. So thank you for everyone joining us who's hopping on now. This first episode, we want to call it Divorce 101, where we simply just talk about what the divorce process entails and things you might want to do to prep if you decided there is no other alternative than divorce. If you've gone through the channels, you've gone through the therapy, you've gone through everything, but there's just no other way out and it's just divorce. That's what this live stream is about. We want to make sure we provide it so you know what the steps are, so you don't feel like you're alone, just things like that. Before we dive into the meats and potatoes, I just have to add my 2 cents. Now, if you are on the receiving end of divorce papers, whether divorce is known or a surprise, it will be okay. Divorce sucks, period. Even the most amicable divorce is not pleasant. There's no sugarcoating the stress, the conflict, and emotions that come along with this wild ride. So you need to make sure you are prepared for the worst. But realize there is a huge difference between being prepared for the worst and fearing the unknown. So if you're prepared for what lies ahead and feel ready to embark on the journey, you will always make it through the other side in one piece. But like I said, preparation is key. So when we dive in, the first thing we're going to talk about is just the process. What does the process of divorce look like? Every state has a different law surrounding divorce. Nikita will explain the process for the state of Texas, and then I will provide must follow divorce tips. Okay, Nikita, go ahead and take it away.
So, the first thing that I want people to know is that you do have choices when it comes to how you are going to handle your divorce, how your divorce is handled. You do have choices. There are essentially three ways that you can be divorced or obtain a divorce in Texas. One is what everyone is familiar with, that's litigation. That's what's usually pitched to most individuals. That's when you file your petition, which is a lawsuit. A petition for divorce is a lawsuit, and you're filing that against the other party, which is your partner, husband, wife, however you choose to name them. And litigation is what it is usually a bit more contentious. At times you can reach an agreement in litigation, but there's a certain way in which a divorce is approached when you're talking about litigation, and it's usually a bit more contentious. Then you have what's called collaborative divorce. This is relatively new. It's not new as in the last 2 years. It's been something that persons could utilize for quite some time now. But I think people didn't know that it was something that was available to them. That's when you have each person has an attorney. So you and your partner, your husband, wife, they have an attorney. But the difference is that both attorneys and the parties agree to approach this in an amicable way. So they don't approach it from an adversarial standpoint. They approach it from a space of collaboration, which means that the attorney is going to call the other attorney at the beginning of the case. They're going to talk it out, see where we are, see what needs to be taken care of first. And also, it's out of the purview of the court, so to speak, which means that we will file a notice to the court to let them know that this case has been handled or being handled collaboratively. And that means that for the most part, we don't have a lot of interjection from the courts. It's up to us, it's up to the parties and the attorneys to reach an agreement.
And
The
whenever you,
last-
and then when I do have a question on the collaborative side, because
Yes.
I feel like when you're explaining that, yes, litigation is the most known, but collaborative is more. You said it's more amicable, but also, is it two, like, how does it work? Is it two people and then they have their teams, and then from there, and it just makes it where you're not on a time crunch in the court system, or how does that work?
Well, time is a factor, right? But for this one, yes, you have each party has their own attorney, because you're still going to want to be able to consult with your own attorney and ask them, what's the best way to approach this? What should I do with this? So you're still being counseled. So that's true. So that it's not different from litigation in that sense. But what's different is, yes, we're letting the court know that we don't need you as much. We're not going to need to come in for temp orders. We're not going to need to be on your radar as much. We don't need you to drive the case. The parties are going to drive the case. And as far as the team, yes, you can absolutely invite your financial partners into the team. If you have a need for a mental health professional, you have a person that you bring in for that as well. People don't usually think about having a mental health professional when you're talking about divorce, which is interesting because it's about feelings, it's about emotions, it's about a person's ability or inability to process through what's going on. And that does have a toll, or can take a toll on your case, on your divorce case. So that's another thing that's different about the collaborative approach is because we have a team. It's approaching a divorce from a team aspect, and it's thinking about what is in the best interest for all parties involved.
So, from your experience, what do you think the biggest benefit, like say top two, three benefits of it doing the collaborative side versus the litigation? I know you said it keeps it out of the court system in the sense where there's not that, but what is the biggest benefit?
Well, a few of the benefits are that you're not within the court's purview as much as if it was a contentious divorce, or if it was a divorce that was driven by litigation. So what that means is the parties get the opportunity to get back in the driver's seat. They get back into the driver's seat, and you direct how this is going to go. People seem to think that divorce is totally out of their hands, right? I file, my attorney does all of this. I don't have a say. And sometimes I can understand why they feel that way, because some of the power, a lot of the power is transferred to other individuals. This is a way for persons to take their power back
I
and for
love
them to direct, them to direct the way that this divorce is going to go. I know people like to talk about costs, and I'll hit on it for, just a few minutes, but I like to be careful because I never want to compare things where you say this is a cheap way and this is an expensive way. What I can say is that at times when you're more amicable, then you're going to be more cost effective. What people don't understand when they're going out looking for these bulldogs of attorneys, and they want a bulldog, they want a bulldozer, they want anything that's connected to a bull, right? I don't know why, but whenever they go for this, they don't understand what comes with that is billing. It is not inexpensive. So I try my best to impart that knowledge when I'm talking to people. And I'm so glad that we have an opportunity where I can be a bit more candid about these things, as opposed to someone who is a client. I try to be a bit more tactful, but I'm a bit different. I do attack things head on.
you
And
got no
actually,
straightforward sometimes. That's what it is.
the reality of it is that the fight is what's going to bankrupt a lot of people, and they don't understand that. And when they get that first bill that's 15K, they wonder why. It's because you want a bulldog, you want to bulldoze, that's what you want to do. So with this, it's more amicable to me. That translates to a better environment. When you have children involved, wouldn't you want that for them if possible? Now, understanding that collaborative may not be the approach for all. It's not going to be the approach for all. When you have problems with children, meaning that you have maybe a parent who may not be as fit, you probably will have to go before a judge. It may have to be contentious. But for those who understand that they want what's best for the child, if their children involved, they want what's best for each other. This just didn't work out, right? Then I say definitely look into collaborative law. The
Awesome.
last the last one that I'll go through is mediation. And mediation is talked about usually in conjunction with litigation, because when you file divorce actions, especially in like the Harris County, Fort Bend, Chambers, all those areas, those kind of congruent areas, all of those judges, for the most part, will require you to go to mediation to see if you can work it out, because you got to think about how many people live in these areas and how many cases are being filed every day. So the courts don't want to clog up their courts if they don't have to. They don't want to clog up their dockets, is what I was about to say, if they don't have to. So they say, well, listen, you try to figure it out. So even they are interjecting in this system to try to see if you can work it out yourself. But we want to provide that ability to a person prior to you going before a judge. We want you to know that that's something that you can do. So with mediation, I'll give you an example. My firm and two of my colleagues, we have a divorce retreat. So essentially, we'll get you divorced in a weekend. Now, saying
Crazy.
that, yes, saying that, you have to understand that there is work that needs to be done. People need to be transparent. You have to come to the table truly being amicable, truly being amenable. And with that, you have to give up the information that we need, both parties, and we can work it out. Have our financial person to come in if need be, draft us, an Excel spreadsheet of what everybody has, see if we can, figure out how to divide, all types of things. So as long as that homework is done, by the time that we decide to have them to come in, then we can definitely get it done. It's a possibility. And again, that isn't going to be for everyone. That's for a couple who understands where they are. They understand that whatever it is they have to process through emotionally, it needs to be done outside of the courtroom. That's the number one thing. It's really about mindset when it comes to which type of divorce do I want. It's about mindset.
So, Nikita, being in finance, I have to ask, like, if you were to rank the least expensive route to the most, how would you rank it?
See, that's what I told you I wasn't going to do. So I don't do that. But what I
Okay,
will tell you, I'll tell you what I said. Usually, the less contentious something is, then it's going to translate into the billing. So
that's
you
fair.
take that as you, I don't like saying least
That's
expensive
fair. That's
that,
fair. But I
because
have to ask.
a lot of different things can come up in a divorce. But what I can say is that when I look at the divorces that I have handled, the ones that have been under a certain threshold when it comes to money, usually are those who we were able to work through the problems.
Yeah.
Typically, it's the individuals or the parties or the situations where we're having a very hard time. That's where you're going to come out spending more money. And you can do that even if you're quote unquote amicable, right? A lot of people think they are, but they have certain things that they won't budge on. And so we have to work through that as the attorney and as whoever else you're going to have on your team as professionals. And that takes time. And so we're going to have to bill for that time. So I will say that. So I say the more contentious, the more you're going to pay. I mean, I can say that without a doubt.
So that's fair to say. I just had a
Mhm.
poke, but no, that's really good to share that, when you are contemplating or you are going through a divorce, that you do have options. And the options that Nikita just talked about was like versus litigation, which is the most known. You have collaborative and then you have mediation.
Mhm.
Now, what is the actual process in the state of Texas?
Okay. So when you first start, let's just say you talk to the person, or you may not have talked to the person that you're planning to divorce. But the first thing that you're going to do, I would say, would be to consult with an attorney. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to hire a person right away. That means
Pause real quick. Pause real quick. We are live. It is kind of staticky, so I don't know if something's being moved, but just wanted to let you know it's
okay.
kind of staticky.
Okay.
And this is really good information. I want to make sure everybody hears it.
Okay. Is that better?
Way better.
Okay, awesome. So what I was saying is that the first thing that I would tell a person to do would be to consult with an attorney. Even if you're not at the point where you're ready to retain someone, that's totally fine. There are plenty of attorneys who you can call and ask for a consult. Some of them are paid, some of them are not paid. There's no right or wrong way. It just depends on the attorney. Some attorneys they want someone to pay for their time. Some people, they'll give you 10 to 15 minutes just for you to kind of quickly go over what's going on. But I say definitely speak with someone first. But after that, if you decide that you want to move forward, then your attorney is going to file your original petition for
Static
divorce.
again. Let's go back.
Okay.
Static. There. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure why, but they're going to they're going to file your petition for divorce, and once they file
Pause.
that,
Nikita, I'm sorry. I can't. It's static. I don't know if it's my end or your end.
I'm not sure, but it's nothing.
Is there a board you're moving or anything? Scoot closer in real quick. We
Mm-mm.
are live, guys. So scoot in closer to a little bit more.
Okay.
Perfect.
Okay.
Stay. Yeah. Go ahead. Yes.
Okay. So
Okay.
are we good now?
We're good. I just want to make
Okay.
sure everybody hears this. This is good stuff.
So what you're going to
Go
do
ahead.
is they're going to file your original petition for divorce for you. And then once that's done, then you're going to have that person served. And what that means is a constable in that particular county, or a process server that your attorney employs will find the person at work, home, wherever they are, and they will actually physically give them that original petition so that they know that this action has been started. Because, like I said, it's a lawsuit. So you have to let the person know that they're being sued. So once that happens, that person will 9 times out of 10 go to an attorney, employ an attorney. They have 20 days plus the following Monday to answer the lawsuit. And when we say answer, that just means that your attorney will file something for you saying, hey, we understand that this has been served. Either we're saying that we're on the case now. Here's a counter petition. Here's our petition as well. That's what's going to happen. Now, once that happens, it's so many ways that the case can go. You may be able to go in mediation and come up with some temporary agreements. We call them temporary orders, pending the finalization of the divorce. Or if you cannot do that and there are issues that you're having, sometimes we have people who've been locked out of their homes. People have issues accessing accounts once someone learns that a divorce has been filed. In instances like that, or if you have children issues, like a person may not allow the person to see the child, those type of issues are issues that we need to address right away. So either we're going to do that through mediation as mandated by the court, or we're going to have to go before a judge and he's going to make that decision for you.
I do have a question. So you said first thing is the filing, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Then you get served. Now, so you said you have 20 days in the following Monday to respond if you get served, correct?
Yes.
What if you don't serve within that time frame, or it goes over and you don't even answer at all? Because like
You
I
don't
said,
answer. Yeah.
That's a very good
question.
Yeah. A lot of times people are going through this. A lot of people are going through all these emotions and they don't, I've seen it in many different cases. So what would happen if they don't even respond at all?
Okay. So if you do not respond, say for instance, I get served my divorce papers and I say, you know what? I don't care. I don't care. People say this. People do this all the time. And I don't care. I don't want to show up. I don't want the divorce. So I'm just not going to respond. That does not stop the divorce. The divorce still proceeds, but the difference is that we have to go through different we have to go through additional steps in order to get that person served. So say for instance, we can't ever catch them at the door. They're never there, or they evade, they may sneak out of the back or something like that. Then we just go back to the judge and say, hey, we know this is where they live. They're evading service. This is the affidavit that the constable or the process server provided. Can we have an alternative way for them to be served? The answer is usually going to be yes. They can put it at your door. They can, I've even seen where they can, and this is very, very small amount of cases, but service via Facebook,
Really?
That's as well. Yes, it's not easy to get. It's not easy to get, but it has happened. So there are ways, and that's why I tell people the best thing to do is not to run from the situation. Now, if you employ an attorney, they may tell you, hold off. We're going to accept service. Just give us a minute, and then we'll get in contact. That's different. But just evading, thinking that the problem is going to go away, that's not smart. So if you do, and you decide that you don't want to answer, and they've served you and they've done everything, we've done everything we're supposed to do, then you could receive what's called the default. And the default is essentially what the other person asked for, whatever they asked for in their petition. Now, granted, there are some caveats to that. If the judge thinks that it's ridiculous what you're asking for, then they won't grant it. But usually it's just really focused on the marriage, the children, the assets, what's been accumulated, things like that. So you don't want to be on the other end of having a default judgment, one in which you didn't have anything, any say so in. So I would say definitely, don't go about it like that. I mean, the problem doesn't go away just because you don't want to deal with it. And it costs everybody time and money, really. And so the best thing to do is just to go ahead and accept that service, unless, of course, you've been advised by your attorney to do something different.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's usually what happens in these scenarios if we don't get an answer, from the other party. So, I'm going to touch briefly on notifying your spouse, because I get this question a lot.
1 second. You moved, it went staticky. So whatever you moved, it was staticky.
So I'm going to talk briefly just about, people ask me all the time about how to approach the situation when they haven't spoken with their significant other or their partner about the divorce, if they have not talked about it, and there may be maybe some DV, some domestic violence issues that come up, I usually will tell them that we need to come up with a plan about service in terms of, whether that person is going to be there, whether you're going to be there, whether you need to make other arrangements. So I'll just say, if anyone is listening and they have that kind of issue, definitely consult with your attorney so that you can come up with a plan by which you can do this in a safe manner. So I just wanted to touch on that as well when we're talking about service. So we talked about the answer and the counter petition. There is a 60-day waiting period in the state of Texas as it relates to you being able to actually go.
I can't hear you again. Sorry.
Okay.
When you move, it's just.
Yeah, I'm not sure
scoop back.
What's going on, but what I was saying is that there is a waiting period. Hello?
Pause, because it's really staticky on my end and it's moving faster. So will you scoot back just a little bit and see what happens in the mic? Okay, now try. No, you're good. Come up a little bit. Yeah. Now try, go ahead.
Is that better?
A little bit, but not really.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So is this better?
No. Go ahead and scoot up a little bit.
Okay.
It's okay.
Okay.
So, we're live, and here's the thing. Right now, you're not in Texas, so.
It happens, but can you hear me?
Yeah, it happens. I can hear you, but it's very staticky when you talk.
Okay.
No, I cannot hear you.
I can hear you fine. I'm not sure why you
I know, but it's you talking. It's very static.
Can we ask the individuals who are in? For persons, I think Kiana is in here. Elena, if you can let me know, you can hear me on my end. Can you let me know?
Wherever you're sitting right now, it's better right there.
But I just still want to ask if someone can let me know. If you can type in, if you're tuning in, just let us know. I'm going to continue on with my thoughts, but if you can let us know if you can hear me, because it may be just on Terry's end. But anyway, we have the 60-day waiting period.
Look, it says
he
static
said that
and
it's
fast.
static and fast. Yeah. So do you think that we should?
You're good right here. You're good right here. Go ahead.
Okay.
So it says can't hear you static. So you're wherever you're sitting, stay right there for a second. Go ahead.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Perfect.
Okay. So we have a 60-day waiting period. 60-day waiting period in Texas. 60 days from the date that you file to the date that you can go in before a judge or otherwise to prove up your divorce. And basically it's just to finalize it. So that's what we have that 60-day waiting period for. I don't usually go too much into it other than that, because it gets to be confusing and people have all these other questions. All you need to know is you have 60 days from the time that you file until you can go in and actually prove up your divorce. Now, when I say that, I also say 60 days is not a long time. A lot of times people think that that's a long time, but it's not a very long time. Are we still good with the static?
It's good now, right? That's why I said much better.
Okay.
So
Okay, good. All right. So we have that. Once you get into the actual meat of the divorce, that's when you really find out how the divorce is going to go, meaning if it's going to be an amicable one or if it's going to be one that's going to be more contentious. That's usually when you find out. People always like to ask me, do you think it's possible for us to do this without there being any contention? I don't know. I have no idea. I don't know the parties. I barely know the person that decided that they wanted to retain me. So I don't know that until we get into the meat of the case. And then I can usually tell you how it's going to go, unless I'm able to actually have a conversation with the other attorney prior to, which is what I like to do. Once I come onto a case, I'll contact the other attorney, introduce myself, and just see where we are. If there are any things that we can agree on in the beginning, if there are any things that we absolutely cannot agree on, can we agree on a mediator so that we can get into mediation? That's just the way that I do things. Of course, there's so many attorneys, so everybody approaches their cases differently.
So my question to you is, when you say you get into the meat of, the actual case, is
Mhm.
that where you work alongside other people, or is that when you look at their finances? What does that mean? Like the whole situation? What does that
Yeah,
look
we
like?
from the beginning we're looking at the full picture.
Okay,
When I say the meat of the case, that's usually after we've completed service to the other individual, and then we're talking about whether or not we need to go in for temp orders. If we can just go in and get some temporary orders by mediation. That's when we really start getting into where we are, when the attorneys can speak. If a person is not represented by an attorney, that means that they are pro se. That's what we call them, a pro se litigant. And then that means that they are acting as their own attorney. And then if there's another attorney on the other side, then you have to then contact that pro se litigant as if they are an attorney.
I see. Okay.
Mhm. So once all of that is done, if we're able to reach an agreement in mediation, we do that. We come out with what's called an MSA, and that's a mediated settlement agreement. If we're not able to, we end up before a judge on temporary orders. Sometimes we're even able to get into mediation and work everything out, meaning final. And that doesn't happen all the time. That happens usually when individuals they're at a space where they understand that this is happening. They both have good records. They both have things that they can provide to the attorney so that we can talk and see where we are. Sometimes that happens, but usually temporary orders is where we are. Either we can reach those via mediation or we have to go before a judge.
Okay.
Um,
And then after that's done, are you explaining the finalized divorce decree, or which part?
So right now we're just in the divorce case period,
I
right?
see.
So we're just trying to figure things out. That's where we are. If we're able to figure it out, then we come out with the MSA on it, which is a mediated settlement agreement. One of the attorneys will turn that into your final order, and there you are. If not, we may have to go all the way through trial. I can't go through every single scenario because
Got
there's
it.
so many of them, but essentially that's usually where we are. When we're talking about a collaborative approach, it's a bit different because we don't have to do some of the same things in litigation that we had to do. We usually are exchanging information more freely. That means that one side doesn't have to pressure the other side,
Yeah.
to give them information. So usually, typically, it's a bit more smooth. I say
Right.
typically because even when people agree to do things collaboratively, we understand that emotions and things can run high and they may, act up a little bit. But usually we're able to get them back on track.
Got
Um,
it.
Once we get the final order, your final order, then we have to either go before a judge to finalize, or now because of COVID, we have the ability to file all documents. As long as we have all signatures, a judge will look over it and sign if in agreement, or if there's no other, no other issues. If there are, they'll call you in and they'll ask their, respective questions.
Okay. No, great. So we do have about 20 minutes left. So I want to make sure we're on track too as well. Just in a short version, your experience, because from my experience, when I work with clients that are going through a divorce, it takes anywhere from like 6 months to over a year. What have your
Mhm,
experience been from just going through from start to finish?
mhm.
Varies. What's that range look like for most people?
It varies. I mean, to be honest with you, that's a pretty good range. The more contentious the case is, the longer it's going to take. It's
Okay.
really pretty simple. I can't say, oh, it's
To
going to take
you,
a year,
simple to
but
you.
yeah. Well, simple when I say that the contention and things like that play a big part in not only the money, but the time that you'll spend.
Yeah,
So that's why I say that, because I have people who have contentious divorces, meaning they have 4 to 5 huge things that we need to try to figure out, but they want it done in 3 months.
got it.
It's
Okay.
probably not going to happen. Yeah.
So like you said, it just depends on what's involved in the case, who's involved, how long it's dragged out. So that's good. So that's the same experience that I had. No, thank you so much for explaining the process. I mean, you did a great job explaining how the process works. It's always helpful to just be educated on the process of divorce because it seems less daunting once you know the steps. Thank you for that. So the tips that I'm going to provide are just general advice. If you are contemplating a divorce or currently going through a divorce, just keep in mind that
Terry, I'm sorry, there's static on your end too now because one of the persons just stated that there's static. So I really think that it's probably the platform because it's on your end now.
Can you hear me, or should I just? Is it better? No.
There you go. Yeah,
better?
That's better.
Okay. So what I was saying is the tips that I'm going to provide you guys is just general advice. Just keep in mind that the day of divorce, this will be the day it will be the biggest and quickest sale of all your assets. So you want to be prepared. If I give you that's just general. So first advice is just face reality head on. So take the time needed to solve, but give yourself a deadline.
It's more static. I'm sorry, Terry. It's more static. Okay. I know I'm doing to you what you were doing, but everybody's saying that it's static again. Sorry about that, guys. But this is the first time too that both of us are using Restream. So let me say that as well. And Terry is much better at it than I am, but we're kind of going through it. But I think that it's the system that's making speeding her speech up. She's
just stop me if I'm talking. Am I still talking fast? Is it better?
Yeah.
Do I need to
so wherever you were before, just move back there because I can hear you.
Is it better now?
Talk again.
Is it better now?
I can hear you better. Okay. I can hear you better now.
So just keep in mind that the day of your divorce will be one of the biggest and quickest sell of all your assets. So you want to be prepared. The first thing I'll tell you is just facing reality head on. Take the time needed to sulk, but give yourself a deadline when the sulking ends to face reality head on. Because like Nikita said, you have 20 days and a following Monday to respond within that time frame. But unfortunately, once you're notified the court system, they do not stop the clock for you. You'll be overwhelmed with an array of emotions, and it's fine. I'm a strong believer in building your support team, which with support team of your therapists, friends, just to help you get through this time. But when it comes to managing your finances, you got to set your emotions aside. You need to buckle up and focus on your objectives. You got to hire a CDFA like myself or just to help you get through it. Your mission is to put yourself in the best financial position possible. I'm not saying being greedy. I'm talking about just being fair. Number 2, know that you got this. You got to remind yourself daily of the following. You can do this. You will get through this. You must stand up and fight for what you deserve. Okay. Number 3, which is one of the important ones, is getting organized. With all the emotions you'll be feeling, it's best that you just take a pen and paper out and just simply jot down all the assets that you guys share between you and your spouse. Once you have that list, start searching for documents that support your assets and compile them. This will make it easier for your attorney. This will make it easier for me. It'll just make it a lot smoother and take down the hours. So like personal records, financial information, real estate, other properties, whatever it is, when you're trying to prove your case in the court system, the more documents you have, the better it is for yourself. Now, number 4 is just keeping the big picture in mind. Going through divorce can be draining emotionally and physically. I've seen it. I witnessed it through my clients. But you have to keep the big picture in mind. You got to ask yourself, and I would even jot this down so you can keep it in the forefront of your mind. What are 3 things that matter to you the most in the future? Second question is, what are 3 goals of divorce that you're trying to accomplish when you're going through this divorce? And when you have those, jot it down, put it somewhere that you can just remind yourself daily, because you will get lost. You will go through a roller coaster of emotions. Days you'll be good, days you won't. And that's okay. That's normal. That's where I also tell you the best way to go through a divorce is just having a good divorce team. And what that looks like is just having an attorney, a financial planner, and a therapist on your side. Number 5, understanding your expenses. This is another area, along with getting organized. you got to know what your inflows and outflows are. You got to keep a tab on the followings, like your house expenses, your yearly expenses, your fixed monthly expenses, variable expenses, things that you could possibly live without. Just knowing what is spent in and out each month is just good to know, because it'll help you during your divorce, but then it will give us an idea of what to ask for whenever you out of the divorce. So that's another key. Number 6 is creating a marital history. So one of the challenges of your divorce team is like catching up with your life and your marriage. We're meeting you for the first time. So creating a concise timeline with key details during the marriage would help your team have a better understanding of your marriage. So for instance, is this your first marriage? Do you have previous marriages? Have a clear time that you separate in between these marriages. Where did you get married? When did the separation occur? Why is your separation happening now? When did you start feeling a separation was necessary in your current marriage? These are all things that are useful for your attorney and also your CDFA. Number 7 is be more diligent with your personal information. The crazy thing is, the unfortunate truth is that a divorce often brings out the worst in people, especially when assets and finances are at stake. So just be extra diligent with your private information after filing for divorce. Even if you don't even suspect that your spouse will spy on you, I would change passwords on your computer, run a credit report on yourself, monitor it, make sure there's no outrageous spending as you're going through the divorce. I hate to bring this up, but I'm just saying, like, this is not in all situations, in all cases. It's just something to be, aware of, just in case if you are in that shoe. Number 8, staying involved in your process. This is the part where I always have to remind my clients, like, you might think that hiring experts to handle your legal issues, your finances, and other matters, you just avoid any responsibility for making mistakes in your case. But the fact is, your case is just that. It's your case. You have the most stake. Means it is your responsibility to have everything thoroughly compiled and ready for your team. Your team is working diligently on your behalf. However, neither your lawyer, your financial expert, or your therapist have to live with the consequences of your divorce and the decisions made during the process. You do. So stay involved. And at the end of the day, this is your life. Okay. And number 9, which is really important, where we touch more on our next episode, but just getting an experienced attorney that will advocate for you. This is actually the number 1 on the list of importance. Your attorney is the front line. This is the one that will stir the ship for you when it comes to dealing with the law. I mean, we will discuss more, like I said, of what to look for in our next episode as far as like interviewing attorneys, but this is the most important. And there are options out there. A lot of times cost is a factor, or you feel like it's just do your due diligence and research and just interview. But that's it on my end. Unless you have anything to add on the tips that I added, I can kind of jump into towards the end and answer some questions for people.
Yeah, let's try to get to some questions. I'm going to just touch on.
Okay, go ahead, and then I'll give
you close. I'm just going to touch on these that's in here because we're at 48 minutes now, so we need to try to get some of these in. Someone said, "What can I do if an attorney is not advocating for me?" The simple answer to that is you can always, find another attorney. But what I tell people is having a conversation with your attorney before you do that, because sometimes there are things that you can actually get over. There may be some communication issues that if you just talk to them about it, they can tweak some things. But I wouldn't say jump ship too early, because you're probably going to end up coming out more money out of pocket, because you then have to pay another person. You can't transfer what you pay the other attorney to them. So another person asked as well, I believe they said, what happens if the respondent doesn't provide documents and bank statements and things like that if it's requested? The long and short of it is you can bring them back before the judge on it, and they will essentially force them to. And if they don't, then there are things that can be done, like awards of attorney's fees and things like that. Retainer fees I'm not going to go into, because that is dependent on the attorney. So you have to ask the attorney what theirs is. And then I also just wanted to say that someone said that no one wins in divorce. And I think that that's an important statement because it's absolutely true. A lot of times we think about court cases, particularly divorce, as who wins and who loses. And I tell everyone that is not the best way to look at it, because when you look at it, especially when there are children involved and things like that, nobody is winning. Even
Yeah.
if you get more of the marital estate, it's not a win. Nobody wins in divorce because this is a very big change for everyone involved. Usually there's some kind of brokenness, involved at some point. Sometimes people are through it, sometimes they aren't. So I think that that's a very good statement to make.
And
Go
then
ahead.
I'll answer the last one and then we'll jump in. So we also receive questions through our email. Let me also share that. If you guys have questions, anything, comments, maybe suggestions on episodes, please feel free to share it with us. You can email us at divorceisnotabadword.com. So a question was, what does a CDFA do for their clients in a divorce? Well, I mean, at the end of the day, we are splitting money. So I think that having a financial planner is a huge key in a divorce because, like I said earlier, divorce, they know the law down pat, but not all may know like the different retirement vehicles that's out there. And sometimes those retirement vehicles are one of the largest assets that you have to split, and how to do it and how to avoid taxation, how to be able to pull certain money out on certain retirement vehicles before a certain age where you're not taxed as much. That's how we work. But also, working with the CDFA, what I do is I paint the picture. Okay, these are your current finances. This is what your future finances is going to be. Now, if you take this asset over this asset, here's the pros and cons. That way you can see what it looks like if you, let's say, oh, well, I don't want to keep the house, but I'd rather have the retirement account. Certain things like that. It's just weighing out the pros and cons. So that way you make the best decision for yourself. And when you get out of the divorce, you don't feel like, oh crap, I just lost. Or like Nikita said, it's nobody wins, but you know what I mean. So
No.
that's how a CDFA is an important role in a divorce process.
Okay, so we have a couple more minutes. I have a few more questions from the questions that we received that I want to try to address. Can I get divorced without an attorney? Yes, you can. Do I recommend it? No, I do not. And are there any support groups to help cope with divorce? That's a very good question. And I actually looked that up. What I can say is that I would start first with your faith-based organizations. What I've seen a lot is that the churches like Fallbrook and places like that, they have divorce circles or divorce groups that meet monthly, weekly. So that would be a good place for you guys to start if you're looking for something like that.
I will touch base on that. So
Um,
I am posting a seminar for divorcees that are going or contemplating, or in that seminar, we will have an attorney for the state of Texas, myself, and also support groups. So if you are interested in that, be on the lookout for that. I will be sending that out to you guys, but there are a lot of support groups. So if you're interested, I can send you a couple recommendations that you can look into, but it is very helpful. And there are resources like that out there. Go ahead, Nicole.
Someone didn't, it's not a question, but they talked about being separated. And I just wanted to touch on something. There's no legal separation in the state of Texas. I'll say it again, is no legal separation in the state of Texas. So when you guys call me and say, oh, I've been separated for 5 years, well, that's nice. And that means you haven't been living together, but you still married. So what does that mean? That means that everything that's being accumulated by both of you guys are still considered community property. So if you're out here buying things and investing and all of that, and you're still married, then please understand that some of those things are community property, because the state of Texas does not recognize legal separation. We don't have process, for that or anything like that. Last thing, is it possible for a judge to order the alleged perpetrator, we're talking about DV, domestic violence, to pay spousal maintenance? What is the amount? So I can't really go into all of it, but what I can say is that spousal support is absolutely something that can be awarded at the discretion of the court. There's a laundry list of things that they will consider, including how long you've been married, what's been the DV, like how long, what type, can you prove it? They look at education. They look at the ability of both spouses to make money. It's a whole laundry list that they look at. And yes, if the person happens to be the perpetrator, they could be, ordered by the court to pay spousal maintenance. But I can't say that that's going to happen in every single scenario, because there are other things that they look at as well. But we do have the ability to request spousal maintenance, and the courts will, at their discretion, order a person to pay, whatever that amount is going to be.
Okay. Thank you so much for all that information, Nikita. Guys, we gave you a lot of information. Please save this live stream. Listen to as much as possible. Send it to your friends who may be contemplating or currently going through a divorce. We just want to provide resources because we know this process isn't easy. So if you have questions, our email that you can email us at is divorceisnotabadword@gmail.com. Also, stay tuned. We will have episode 2 on Divorce is Not a Bad Word, where we will discuss divorce attorneys and everything you need to know from hiring the right one to the cost. We will also go in depth about the different options you can take with your divorce, just like what Nikita said earlier, mediation, collaborative, and litigation. So please stay tuned, invite your friends. Again, I'm Terry Ho. You have Nikita Lamar, and we will see you next time.
Bye, guys.